Hello, I'm Mark Bessie. I'm one of the engineers on the Aries project, and I'm going to do a quick demo here of some of the features of Aries and how you can use it to develop applications. So this is the main Aries window. You'll see that there's a toolbar at the top, and there are a few icons here. One is for creating a new project, and one is for opening an existing project. So we don't have any, oh, and there's a menu here where you can set up some various things. So actually I'm going to talk about this first. One of the features of Aries is that we have a plug-in architecture for it so that there are ways to put in additional file storage options as well as other services. So there are currently two plugins installed in this copy of Aries. One is the Dropbox plugin, which allows you to store files on Dropbox as well as on your local file system, which is what Aries allows by default. In addition, we have support for the PhoneGap build service, which is a service that Adobe provides that allows you to do device builds in the cloud. So you can develop your application locally and then package up the source code, send it to PhoneGap build, and they will build it on their servers for Windows Phone and Android and iOS and WebOS and BlackBerry and possibly one or two other things that I don't remember right now. So I've already gone up and set up my PhoneGap build account, and we'll be using that later when I demo the PhoneGap build functionality. So first step is to create a new project. You can see that there are the two service providers here, one for my local home directory and one for the Dropbox. So I'm going to click on home directory, go into my documents folder, and create a new folder for this demo that we're going to call demo. So it creates a folder, selects it, we say OK, and now we need to set up the properties of the demo project. So it has a name, we're calling it demo, we're going to give it a title of demo project, version doesn't matter, ID is just a unique identifier for this particular project, and we'll put in my name as the creator, and we'll put in my contact information. One of the new features in this version of Aries is the support for templates. So you can create your project either as an empty project or as a copy of a template. The only template we currently have is the bootplate template, which is a sort of generic basic Enyo application. We will be adding support for other templates in the future. We're also going to enable PhoneGap build, and in order to build for Android and iOS, for example, you need to have signing keys. So we're going to pick my signing key that I've already set up on this machine, and we'll also build for WebOS because WebOS is awesome. And that pretty much concludes setting up the project. So we say OK, and it copies all the files from the bootplate project and then makes a few minor modifications to them based on the settings for the project. And here's our demo project. So when we select this, you see that there are a whole bunch more toolbar icons become available. So there's the settings, which just is exactly the same thing we were looking at before. So if you decided later, after you created a project, that you wanted to change your support for various mobile platforms, you can do that easily here. There's also a preview functionality, and what preview does is it basically opens another window, and I'm going to drag this down so you can actually see it. Opens up a window that contains, and that warning here is just telling us that we haven't built this application yet, and so it's using all of the individual files rather than the minified version of the source. And what will happen is that we'll get a simulation here of a particular device. In this case, it's a 800 by 600 view, but we can actually show it in landscape mode, and we can actually pick a particular device to get the metrics of that device. So here's what this application would look like on an iPhone. Gray background, just says hello world in it. This is running the actual code from the project, so you can make changes to the project and it'll show up right here. That's a pretty boring application though, so we're going to make some changes. I'm going to double click on app.js and it loads up in the editor, and we've got the JavaScript source code here, and you can see that we have defined a single kind, which is an Enyo object, and it's got one component in it which just contains the text hello world. So that's a little boring, as I said, so we're going to go into the designer and we're going to change it. So the designer is our visual design tool. Go in here, and what we're going to do first thing is we're going to go over here on the left on the palette. Oh, sorry. First I'm going to do a little explanation of what we're actually looking at. So on the left we have a palette which has a list of all the various Enyo and Onyx controls. And then on the right, we have the view of the control hierarchy. So there's the application and there's the hello control inside of it that contains the text. And you can see that the highlighting changes depending on which control is selected. Below all of that, there is an inspector which allows you to view the properties and events that are attached to particular controls. So that, again, not too interesting. So we will grab a toolbar from over here and we'll drag it out. Having a little mouse problem there. Okay, so we'll drag it out and you can see that as I drag it over various controls, it targets towards dropping it into that control. We're going to drop it onto the main app. And what ends up happening, of course, is that it ends up below the Hello World control because it was just dropped generically onto the application. So we're going to actually change the order of these two. We're going to move the toolbar up so it's at the top. We're going to go into the inspector and we're going to give it some content. In this case, we're going to just say Hello World app. And now it says Hello World app. So if we go from here back to the code editor, we can see that Hello World app has been inserted as the content. And in fact, if we wanted to go, we could go over here, hit the preview button, and it would show us in the preview window. So that's all totally live. Okay, so this is like not the most interesting app in the world, and so what I would like is I'd like to have a little bit more interactivity. So we're going to take an input and drag it in here, and also a button. All right, so the input says enter text here, which is not very interesting, so we'll change that placeholder text to say enter your name. And you can see that it updates, it says enter your name. The button, and we're going to change to say, instead of just saying button, it's going to say hello. And we're going to get rid of the existing hello world text because we're not going to need that anymore. So when the idea here is that you would enter your name in here, hit the say hello button, and then it'll tell you hello, your name. So we need somewhere for that to appear. So I'm going to take a group box, which is a control in Onyx that has a header and an item in it. It can have actually multiple items, and we're not going to use that particular feature. This is just to give us a little bit of style. If you take a look at how this is styled, you have the header has a little rounded corner at the top, and the items have rounded corners at the bottom, so it's gives it a little bit of a cleaner look. So we'll go into the header, and we'll change its content from header to results. And we're going to edit the item. We're going to remove the existing content because we're going to programmatically generate that, and we're going to change the name of this control from the generic control to result. Now, in order to change what happens when the button is pressed, we need to go into the events inspector, and for the on tap event, we're going to say that we want to call the say hello handler in the owner of this component. So go back to the code editor, we see that there's a bunch more code in the components. So we've added our input, we've got our group box, we've got our controls, and we also now have a say hello handler defined on our application kind. So we can go in here and add some code to this for what we want to do when the button is pressed. So there is auto completion built in here, so you can have a list of all the properties on the that you're editing. That's actually a huge list, but in this case what we want is this $, which is the list of all child components. We're going to get the result and set the content of the result. And we're going to set it to hello and the contents of the input. So this $, $input get value. Just get value. And we'll save this, and we will now go to the preview and take a look and see what it looks like. And again, read the warning about being in debug mode. And if all goes well, when I type my name here and I hit say hello, I get hello mark down there. So that shows you that that's working. And again, we can take a look at what the orientation would look like or what the application would look like in different form factors. So if we switch this to iPhone, you see that the screen is much smaller. And so instead of having the input and the button next to each other, they end up arranged over the top of each other. And if you switch to landscape mode, you'll see that they're again put side by side. So that's an example of some of the responsive design that's built into the Enyo framework. Okay, so last part of the demo. Always a little nervous when I get to this because it requires an external service. So we're going to click on PhoneGap Build, and what this is going to do is it's going to collect up all of our application source and package it up and send it to the PhoneGap Build service. So this takes a little while to start. And the idea here is that you don't have to have all of the SDK tools for all the various platforms installed. You don't have to manage that whole process. You can just have this service that lives out in the cloud and does all of the builds for various mobile platforms for you. So it's gathering all the data together and slowly but surely. My network is a little slow today, so that may be part of the reason why this is taking so long. Normally it's quite a bit faster. And off it goes. So now we're going to switch over to the PhoneGap Build Service website, and this is build.phonegap.com. And I have an account here, so I've already logged into my account, and you see that there are no applications listed under my apps. But if I refresh, hopefully, there it is, demo project. So you can see the status of the various platforms and which ones are building. And so right now we've succeeded actually already in our building our WebOS build, and we've succeeded in, I don't remember what package that is. And the BlackBerry build failed, for example. So if you go to the page for the project, what you see is we've got a Windows application, we've got an IPK for WebOS, we've got an Android APK, and I don't even know which platform this is. Go figure. And an iPackage for our, yeah, not iPackage, IPA for iOS. From the screencast software I'm using, but you'll have to take my word for it that when you click on this, it'll download, and it's a fairly straightforward process to copy that then onto a device and run it from there. Anyway, that is sort of the basics of things. Other features I didn't mention, let's see, if you open a CSS file, you see that we have different formatting, different syntax coloring for the CSS file versus the app.js file. You can have multiple files open at once. Clearly, you can have multiple projects over here on the left-hand side. Let's see what else. That's pretty much it, actually. That is a basic introduction to using Aries. Thanks for watching.